What's up, everyone? Welcome into the bat flip. Some tears have fallen these in the last hour, as Tennessee's historic season comes to an end. We're here. We're going to talk about a little bit, highlight some moments from the season. Talk about the time in Omaha. Talk about Tony Vitello and his future with Tennessee. I'm Landon Raby. With me, Dylan Taylor. Go check out our sponsors real quick: Tennessee Tap House, Hound Dogs, and Blue Water Climate Control. Here's a quick word from our good friends at Blue Water Climate Control.
Blue Water Climate Control. From heating and AC installation and repair, commercial or residential, when you choose Blue Water Climate Control, we offer solutions, not a sales pitch. Blue Water Climate Control. Veteran-owned, superior service.
We're back. Man, I mean, what a season for Tennessee baseball. Not only that, they're a force that's going to be in the SEC for years to come. Now is the hope, but also just this fan base. They really latched onto this team. It gave this fan base a reason to cheer for their orange and white. And I'm excited about the future. I really am. I don't think, just to be blunt, I don't think Tony Vitello is going anywhere. I think he loves Tennessee, and he's loyal to this program that gave him that chance. I know he talked about that a little bit in his press conference. But yeah, I just don't really think he's going anywhere. I think it's unfortunate that Tennessee's season comes to an end. And it was just the way, like we were talking about it before, it was just the way that it ended.
Yeah.
There was just some plays that Texas had that kind of took the air out of Tennessee, and Tennessee just wasn't able to recover. But when you look at on paper, it looks like Tennessee should have won this ball game. They had more hits. They only struck out 3 times. They struck out 13 in the game against Virginia. So I just think Tennessee should have probably won this game. I think they're probably a more talented team than Texas. But no, the timely hits just didn't come like they didn't against Virginia. Weren't able to get extra base hits. Weren't able to get a single long ball in their 2 games in Omaha, which I know, I don't think it was the size of the field. I just think Tennessee just couldn't get those hit, like they couldn't get anything in a gap or anything like that. It just seems like every hit that they had was right to somebody. I talk about the moments that Texas had. The 2 double plays really just again took that air out of Tennessee. The one Drew Gilbert pulls 99% of the balls he hits. He hits one to the third base side, and it's right to the third baseman. And for them to the ball's hit hard. If it's hit soft, Drew Gilbert beats that run or beats that throw at first because he's a quick kid. But it was hit so hard they're able to turn that double play, and then to get Max Ferguson at first base on another double play by that second baseman was just a huge moment. The umpires they had a rough day. We can say that. I got a call from Tennessee assistant baseball coach Ross Kivett just after he gets tossed. And he's in the coach's locker room just kind of venting a little bit. But I mean, just I don't really know what else to say. It just unfortunate. It sucks. I think Tennessee's best player at the plate this weekend looked to be Pete Durkee. A lot of those, Drew Gilbert, he had a couple hits. Jake Rucker had a couple hits, but nothing like really timely. I think the only extra base hit was today. Jordan Beck had a double, and that was the only extra base hit Tennessee got in these 2 games. And I just think it's tough to win in a tough environment like this if you're only getting one extra base hit in 18 innings.
Yeah, I mean it sucks. It's kind of what we talked about before. Baseball is just one of those sports that you can be on fire and you just hit a cold stretch, and it's rough. I mean, you can get beat by anybody, especially when you're on the biggest stage of college baseball. I mean, it's like we were talking about Virginia. Yeah, they beat us fair and square. Yeah, that's a solid ball club. It's like everything we did square up against them. Liam Spence, line out to second. Everything that we did get a hard contact on. It was right at somebody. Texas kind of the same scenario. I mean, you put up 4 runs, but I don't think the offense was anything like what it's been all year. Some of that's because yeah, you're facing better pitching, and not to take anything away from Texas, but yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I feel like you had the better team there. I think they've got more bullpen depth a little bit probably, but I mean, every play that could go against us went against us. It seemed like, and calls. I mean, I could spend the entirety of this show talking about the crew that was out there today for numerous reasons. But I mean, yeah, not to take anything away from Texas, it's just a tough game. I think that play their catcher made on the play you mentioned, Drew Gilbert, the oppo ground ball, third base, just absolutely scorched it. I mean, that's a great play by their third baseman, but throw in the dirt, catcher managed to pick it, keep his foot on the plate, and throw out. Like you said, Gilbert, a good athlete at first. I mean, they Texas came to play. Now, I think we did too, but yeah, it's just one of those situations where it's everything went against you, and it's the time of the year where when that happens, you don't get it tomorrow, unfortunately.
Yeah, if you get that out at home plate, like you should have, I don't know what the point in replay is if you're never going to overturn anything,
That's yeah,
um, but I mean that's it's a one run game at that point. So I think Tennessee is kind of in it, going into that next inning. They have some momentum after getting that huge out, but they're not able to get that, and then they score a couple more runs in that inning. I just think it was tough to kind of overcome with, like you said, stuff going against you. And looking back on it, I don't think Tennessee, had their A game on the mound as well. Blade Tidwell, I didn't think pitched terribly, but going back to a moment, that 3 run home run with uh, 2 outs and a full count, that's just really tough to come back that next inning and and,
yeah.
and focus in.
I
Uh,
thought he was kind of solid actually. I mean, that one pitch got away from him though. That's what kind of what the broadcast was saying though, was he was kind of he didn't seem off, and yeah, he didn't seem like when he was on this year he wasn't fully that. But yeah, I didn't think he was awful. But yeah, one pitch that's the one you
yeah,
couldn't give up. You gave up.
right. It was just unfortunate. And looking back, maybe you don't pull him. But having a guy like Sean Hunley who doesn't have very many bad outings, and he had 2 in a row in these 2 games in Omaha, just they're on top of him. And there's not a lot you can do. So looking back, maybe you don't pull Blade Tidwell, but having a guy like Sean Hunley in your bullpen, you felt confident in, and he wasn't able to really stop the bleeding at all, and kind of led to kind of snowball effect, and Tennessee just doesn't come out on top. But what a year. The Ross give it. I just don't understand like how you throw somebody out for hitting a third base umpire. He's at
Yeah,
third base. We're on the first base side. He slams his
couldn't
hand
be
against
further
the
away.
pad.
Couldn't
Yeah,
be further away from him on the field.
slams his hand against the pad and throws him out. So I mean, when you get thrown out for something so simple, yeah, you got to earn it. You got to get your money's worth, and Ross Kivett did that.
Oh, he did. Absolutely.
So you saw the words. You can lip read a little bit and kind of figure out what he actually said to those umpires, and rightfully so. They kind of deserved it. I would have called them the same thing.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I just had one point, not even about the third base. I mean, yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't. It was the it's what I tweeted earlier. It was an umpire show from the first pitch. I mean, they wanted to let everybody know that the umpires are out today. They did their hair the best they can. They want everybody to see it. It was just I just don't understand. I've never really been on the full train of robot umpires that everybody's saying. Like I've never really fully been on that.
until today.
Yeah, I mean, you've got umpires and you've got replay. You've got a human element and you've got technology. At this pace, it seems like we see a call, whether it's college or MLB, every day. It seems like, and I mean, I understand it's probably a more difficult job than it looks. But when you're seeing this every day, I just don't know how you can continue to have. I think you've got to do away with physical umpires or replay. They can't both coexist because you see where within 2 minutes on Twitter, everyone can see that call's wrong. So you can
Yeah,
see it on the broadcast. what's the point of having if we're going to have replay to where everyone in the country can see, hey, you made a bad call and you still don't change it? That's just the human element. That's a pride point right
Yeah,
there. Like,
I just don't understand how, like, we're so advanced in technology. How do we not have a robot or something like that saying he's out or safe? Like
and
in a replay, like that should be it.
that's what
Yeah,
somebody
he's
said
out.
too.
He's safe.
He
How,
he's
how
got
does
a
that not?
camera. He's got a camera on his helmet that they're showing the pitch cam every three pitches for some reason, where it looks like I'm on the front of a ship and we're in the middle of a storm and it's just shaking all over the place. But you can't use that. I mean, maybe he takes the helmet off there. I guess that's the point. But you've shown that you've got the advancements to be able to do that. But on a play like that, even though it's still grainy and from God knows how far away, you can still see from a fan's point of view. And
You're right.
you're getting the umpires are getting the same feed there. So I don't know where the communication's lacking there, but you've got to do away with one. Because if it's an umpire that just says, "Hey, I'm too proud to admit that I
Mhm.
got the call wrong," he shouldn't be an umpire. Like, that's my main point on it. Something's got to change on that. College MLB, you either go full technology or you just ignore technology and say, "Hey, we'll take the mistakes as they come."
Yeah. It just feels like Tennessee just. I don't want to say like they didn't have any fight in them because that's just not true. I mean, you saw Ross Kivitt today. That's this team had plenty of fight in them, but it just didn't seem like the same Tennessee team. And I don't know if it's just because they weren't at home and we're used to seeing them playing in this postseason at home. But just the swagger and the grit, I just didn't see a ton of that, and maybe because I'm used to seeing it in person. But and you didn't get the bat flips and stuff like that you're used to seeing. But it just seemed like from a offensive standpoint, like it wasn't that same Tennessee team.
Yeah, I mean, you look back on. I mean, what was the stat? I think we're 15-1 following a loss this year, and there always kind of seemed to be a moment like that in a game where you would see the one play that would spark it all. Like that play happened, whether it was liner in the gap for a double, whether it's a pass ball that scores a run, something. There was always seemed to be a play that sparked it that just the wheels fell off for the other team. Then
Hmm.
the first game you get shut out, you never got the big hit there. That's going to happen. But yeah, even in the second game, I mean, you never saw that. You never saw the emotion build up and then just kind of take off. Then so I'm kind of sticking with. I don't say you were cold this time of year, but you just made mistakes that you haven't made all year that you did now that became kind of a habit within these last two games.
Yeah, and a lot of things that are unfortunate. Liam Spence, with the I think was it one run or it would have scored two runs, and he smokes one with two outs, and it was right to the second baseman, or he had to go a little bit to catch it. But just stuff like that, just you square balls up, and it's right to somebody. Tennessee had a lot of that in these two games, but yeah, it's just really unfortunate Tennessee wasn't able to at least get one win in Omaha with so much riding on this season, so much build up to the College World Series, wasn't able to get it done. But um, moving on a little bit to or I guess going back to this season, what are some kind of your favorite moments from this past season?
I mean, just because I was there in person, I think the one that'll always stick out to me was the Evan Russell performance against Vanderbilt. I mean, that was one of those situations, one of those scenarios that you see on movies. He hits the first one, he gets the second one, then he comes up for the third one. You're thinking, well, there's just no way. Like that would first because I'm a Tennessee fan, and that not to be doom and gloom from other sports or drag other sports into this because this team's brought me. I mean, it's what I tweeted. This team's brought me more joy than I think any Tennessee athletic team has in my entire life.
Hmm.
But you never see I've never seen it go that way before, and then he steps up the third at bat and just rips 1-2 against Vanderbilt too. I mean, kind of. I don't want to say the Alabama of college baseball, just because I don't know that it's possible to have that level of dominance in baseball like there is in football. But against them too, like if it's against ETSU, something like that, I don't think it carries as much weight. But that Evan Russell, that performance, for in my mind, that's up there with the Jawan Jennings catch, basketball, and they went on their run. So that's probably the one that just sticks out to me the most.
Yeah, I think that sweep over LSU really kind of told you that this team is good. And that 2019 team was good too, but I think that's when they finally like, hey, we're not a middle tier SEC team. Like we're a top tier SEC team this season. So I think that was a huge moment, just getting that sweep over LSU, who is another one of those kind of historic programs. They just doesn't really lose a ton, and has the success. Another one for me is it's got to be the Max Ferguson walk off bomb against Arkansas. He hits one to tie it um, early on in that game, and then comes up huge with a 3-run bomb to win against Arkansas. I just think that it was a moment I got to see in person, and just when he hit it, you're like, oh, that's a pop fly. That's not going anywhere, and it just kept going and going and
Oh,
going, and just the crowd was electric. That was that first weekend when it was full capacity, so it was just an exciting moment, and one of the best moments in Tennessee baseball history, and probably Tennessee history. And they had a lot of those this season where you can, maybe put some of those in some of the top moments that Tennessee athletics has ever had.
yeah, I mean, I think that just shows how much the in-person element adds to it. Because I mean, Drew Gilbert's walk-off grand slam, a situation that happened has happened maybe 30 times in the history of baseball before. Like
Yeah,
we not gloss over it, but that doesn't stick out to me as much just because I wasn't there. But I mean, that just not to get too big, too deep, but I mean that's kind of. I mean, I guess we're going to get into Tony Vitello here in a little bit, but it's why you got to lock him down. I mean, by any means necessary, is to create more moments like that, to create more opportunities with stadium expansion, everything like that. So you just you got to do your job, Danny White. I mean, you've preached positivity from the moment you got here, and we'll get into it a little bit more. But if you want more moments like that, where you can sit back at the end of the year and be like, hey, that was like I am right now. Yeah, it's depressing. You lost this way, but like just still a great season overall. So do your
yeah.
job.
Getting to host a super regional for the first time in school history is huge. Making it to Omaha for the first time in 16 years is huge. So if you want to continue that success, you have to log down the person that got you there, and that's Tony Vitello, and his staff has done a fantastic job in this league, and this league isn't easy to win in, and to get where you're at in 4 years is unreal. And that's why I'm sure he'll get a lot of phone calls from openings here this year and next year and probably the year after that. But if Danny White is really committed to Tennessee athletics, he's going to have to lock down Tony Vitello by, like you said, any means necessary. Give him the stadium upgrades, whatever he wants. Just tell him to write it down, and you, John Hancock it, and initial it, sign it, whatever you got to do, and let's get this thing going, because I think it's Tennessee is a baseball school at this point. Just like they're a football school when it's football season, they're a basketball school when it's basketball season. But I think with the success this year, I think Tennessee is going to be a baseball school when it's baseball season, and I hope it's that way, because this season was electric. With when it got to full capacity, even when it wasn't full capacity, there was still a lot of um, you had the legends of Lindsey Nelson really make the stadium rowdy and stuff like that. So I want to see it continue to grow, continue to see the sport grow, and I think college baseball is on the rise, and I hope Tennessee baseball is able to rise with it.
Yeah, I mean, even limited capacity, it was enough to get in Palmineri's head. So I'll always hold that as an accomplishment too, even though I
Right.
wasn't there. But I mean, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Maybe I'm kind of glossing over it, and some people may say Rick Barnes with the UCLA thing a couple years ago, but it's weird to actually have a coach and not be on the look for one. I mean, you've seen that. I've seen that for football since I can remember. Basketball, kind of that's kind of the same situation, but still different. You've got your guy now. You just got to keep him. Like, you're not out there looking for, we need a guy that can do this, this, and this. You've got him. You just got to keep him. And LSU's going to come after him. I mean, say you sign him for 5 years, do keep him at the end of 5 years. I don't see the trajectory really changing. So as long as you're going to have Tony Vitello, you got to do this too. But
Hmm.
you've got him. Just keep him.
Yeah, that's definitely, um, that's the first thing that should be on Danny White's list as soon as this game was over today to lock him down. I know Scott Woodard, the AD at LSU, is in Omaha. I think it's good that Jay Johnson got eliminated yesterday, that Arizona program, because I think he's a on the rise coach, younger guy that's had a ton of success at Arizona. So I think he could be one that they speak with. And if I don't think it's a bad thing if Tony Vitello picks up the phone and sees what LSU has to say.
Right.
But I just don't like. I think having a coach that other people want, that's what you want. When Butch Jones got fired, he was an intern at Alabama. No one wanted him. Having a coach that people actually want um, is kind of new for Tennessee, I guess. But yeah, it seems like the LSU coaching search hasn't went exactly how they thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
And I think LSU is a good program, but when you're already in the SEC, like how much better is that program than Tennessee if you have that commitment to upgrading the stadium, just like the stadium that they have? I just don't see as a much better job. I think Tennessee has plenty of in-state talent for baseball. You've seen that with, you know, look at Tennessee's lineup. They had Evan Russell, Jake Rucker, Blade Tidwell's from the state of Tennessee. So there's a ton of talent in this area. I don't think you have to go to Louisiana and down into Texas to really get a ton of top prospects. So I just don't understand why people think it's such better job than Tennessee when you plan to upgrade the stadium, because that's the only thing keeping it from that point.
Right. And I mean, all these people, I mean, you've seen that if it becomes a bidding war between LSU and Tennessee, LSU's got it. Like, buddy, we pay coaches to not coach here. You're not even in our stratosphere, big guy. So I
Oh
don't I
yeah,
don't understand how that's an argument.
yeah.
But
If Tennessee loses a bidding war in any capacity, I'm gonna lose my mind because there's plenty
that's
of money in
that's
this
Danny
athletic
White's
program.
that's Danny White's head there. Like, that's his. I mean, I guess the first test for him was the football hire, but we don't know. I mean, we're still studying for that test. The test hasn't
Mhm.
been handed out yet. This one, it's there. You've got the pen in your hand. You got to ace this one. And I mean, going back to Vitello, I mean, yeah, the facilities are better right now at some places in the SEC. Kind of what you're talking about, like how much better can it get? It's got to be. I know it would excite me if I was a coach for what Danny White should be doing right now. I hope he is telling Tony Vitello, here's what we've got. Build it how you want to. That should be, if he's going to be your guy, let him design it. Let him put this here, however he wants to. I think that's enticing to where you've got the proposal for all these plans, and your athletic director looks you in the face like he should be doing. I hope he does, and saying, do with it what you want to. This is yours. So
Yeah, and they've known Paul Maneri has been retiring for quite some time. So I just don't like it's taken a month for them to get a coach that, it's such a fantastic job. Is it because of you're having to follow in the footsteps of Paul Maneri? Maybe that has something to do with it, but yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's going as well as they, would have thought. They wanted Florida's coach, he turned them down. And again, like Florida they have the number one recruiting class, their number one preseason team. How was that a much better situation than
Right.
Florida? And I'm kind of thinking the same thing with Tennessee. Yeah, the stadium, but if you have that commitment to renovate that in the next couple years, how is it any really different? Because you're in Omaha, LSU is not. So I mean, if
Right.
you're looking at the two programs side by side, Tennessee is a better overall program than LSU is right now.
Yeah, and I mean Tennessee, if you were buying stock, I mean it's going up. LSU's kind of one of those that it's the old traditional one that yeah, it's been at the top for a while, but you can sink that ship a lot easier than you could bring it up, in my opinion, I think. Now, LSU with that search, this is just my personal opinion, guess. I have no facts to back it up, so don't fact check me. But I think they've got Cliff Godwin at ECU. I think they've kind of got him sitting there to where they're looking at Tony Vitello, Sullivan. They've kind of looked at them. I think they'll probably go with him as a safety hire. Now, no AD really wants to do that, so that's just my personal guess. But yeah, if I'm calling it right now, I don't think Tony Vitello is going anywhere. His post game comments, I saw one comment about continuing to build and make this like an every year thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure that could be smoke, but I just watching him with the fans, the players, how he's grown with the culture here, with the fans, with Knoxville. I mean, I've been wrong before. I could be wrong 2 hours from now. But I mean, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I just think the way that this fan base really, took in this baseball team, I think it's kind of showed that staff that, hey, we care about baseball here, and we're going to continue to care about baseball. So I don't, like you said, I don't think he's going anywhere. I'd be shocked if he does. But it is unfortunate how Tennessee's season ended. But I mean, what a run! 50 games, hosting a super regional for the first time. Winning the regional, hosting a regional, coming, making it to the SEC championship game, and just the games that you won on the road. You didn't win. You didn't lose a single SEC series on the road. You actually got a commitment from a pitcher from Missouri that's going to transfer. So even players from other programs, see what this program's like and want to be a part of it. He's got a couple commitments in the past week or so. So that's just not something that I think you do if you have intentions to leave.
Right.
Um,
Football. I mean, football. You could see that. I mean, that's part of the reason for this new transfer rule. I mean, guys sign when their head coach is spilling out all this positivity, and then 2 weeks later they're gone to next big contract. So,
right.
but baseball's a different animal than that. I mean, kind of what we've said before, like this new commit. I mean, baseball, he's a 2024 kid. I mean, he's going to be a sophomore next year. Baseball's a little bit different as far as how they handle recruiting, scholarships, everything like that. I think your word probably means a little bit more there. And with this staff, I mean, we know Kev. I'd follow that dude till the end of the earth after what he did today, or before, but
Absolutely.
especially after what he did today. But Elander, your head recruiter, and I mean, we know what Tony Vitello is. Like, he's not scared to hurt feelings, but I mean, his players. Find me one Tennessee player that wouldn't run through a brick wall for him, for Anderson, Kivett, anybody on that staff. So
Yeah, just watching him interact with the players in the
right,
dugout,
right.
just like poking at them during the games and stuff like that. Like he just seems like he just relates to them, and like you said, they would jump through hoops, go through a brick wall for that guy. Um, and that's why they were so successful this season. They trusted in the staff, they trusted in him, they put in the work, and talent wise, we don't have as much talent, or I guess we did, but when you look at like major league talent, we didn't have the talent that Florida, LSU,
No.
Arkansas, some of those guys have. But it showed up because they had trust in this program, and instilled that culture early on in their tenure at Tennessee. And it just, while like Tennessee shouldn't have been in Omaha. When you look back at what this program was, there's no way in hell Tennessee should have been in Omaha in 4 years. No way.
No, honestly, can we say 3?
Yeah,
What
well, I
about
mean,
that?
yeah.
What about that? I mean, I don't want to sound negative, but before this year, I was kind of like, man, you lost some guys from last year. Was that the chance right then, and you got robbed of it? I mean, if you stacked this team and last year's roster in front of me right here, I don't know who I'd pick, honestly. I mean, yeah, I mean, I meant to say that earlier when you said the 4 years there. That's kind of what everybody's saying. You can't say 3, obviously, because we never saw it. But I mean, yeah, that's an insane turnaround when you think about it. That makes me feel. I don't feel bad. I mean, obviously I do. We just lost, but that's any sport. But I mean, yeah, that's just
And that's what some fans don't understand. The ones that have been riding this train for a week now,
yeah,
and haven't really experienced what it was before this season, or what it was before that 2019 year. I mean, this Tennessee team, when Tony Vitello took over, they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. Didn't compete in the SEC, didn't even make it to Hoover. And here we are, we came in second in the SEC tournament, which is probably, I mean, it's probably just as hard to win that as it is in Omaha. I
yep,
mean, when you look at the success of the SEC programs, so yeah, I just think that's the success is there, and it's been a crazy turnaround. I think this is going to be I think the future's bright for Tennessee baseball, and I think Tony Vitello is going to be a part of it. And I don't know exactly what we have coming back next year. I know Drew Gilbert and Blade Tidwell, Jordan Beck will all be back. Kyle Booker will probably have a huge part next season. But some other guys are going to have opportunities in the draft, like Max Ferguson, Jake Rucker, some of those guys, and some of those guys are getting out of here. Evan Russell, Pete Durkee, Luke Lipsius will be graduating out. But I'm interested to see kind of what Tennessee has coming back next year. Jackson Leith will probably be back. I think that's a big arm. Seth Halverson from that Missouri transfer will probably have a key in that bullpen, or could even be a starter for Tennessee next season. So maybe we'll do a show when we have a better idea of what Tennessee's got coming back. They got a good recruiting class coming in. So again, just going back, I think the future's bright. It sucks today because of the way that you lost, in the moment that you lost. But what a season. Hopefully we keep growing it and run it back next year.
yeah. That's a good last point there you brought up with the guys coming in next year. That's a good thing for Tennessee fans to watch, especially the ones that love watching recruiting as much as I do for football. Look at baseball too. I mean, it's a little bit harder to track in baseball, but normally a good sign of success for programs in college baseball is, are your top recruits going to make it to campus? Just because, not for like we see in football for academic reasons, for legal reasons. In baseball, you've always got the chance that you have a guy committed for 4 years in high school and then he's going to be the number one pick. Now, Tennessee, you don't have the number one pick probably, but you've got guys like Brady House that, yeah, you'd love to get on campus, but that guy could be making a lot of money next year. So that's something
He's
interesting
not
to
gonna.
track.
I'll go ahead and say he's not gonna step foot on campus.
Yeah,
With the way he's projecting to be a top 10 pick, yeah, there's no way he steps foot in Knoxville.
right.
Unfortunate,
I
but yeah,
don't blame him either.
it's part of it, and that's why it's even harder to recruit for baseball, because you're having to recruit guys to your school, number one, and then you're trying to recruit them to not go to the majors.
Come do this for free for 3 years when you could
Right.
have 10 million sitting in the account.
Yeah, maybe that the NLI, maybe that has a little bit more kind of pull to it. It doesn't have millions on
Right.
top of it, but maybe that does help a little bit with recruiting Maybe some of those guys that are borderline, high draft picks, maybe they come back because they're able to make a little bit of money while on, campus.
Yeah.
Anything else you got for the season? I'm in. This is it's the end of our season too. We'll probably get back on here. Maybe we'll do a couple show every now and then. Maybe we'll get some guests on. I know we know a few people that would love to come on the show and just talk about Tennessee baseball because it's a thing now. It's big.
Kiv's got a lot to say. I guarantee you that.
He does. He does. Yeah, he got in trouble last time he was on our show because he was missing his team dinner.
Oh yeah.
So I think Eberhardt was giving him a hard time with doing a podcast and missing a steak dinner. But yeah, I mean that's just this fan base has really just latched on to this staff because they just relate to them. They're just regular dudes that are passionate and fiery about their programs, just like Tennessee fan base. Tennessee fans are about their sports team. So fantastic year. Do you have anything else to add before we head out?
Fun year. Funnest team I've ever watched. That's wore orange. I mean, you've had some good moments every now and then, but just overall, it's the most fun I've had watching a Tennessee team since I've been alive. So sad today, but no complaints. Got a bright future.
Yeah, you don't get many 50. You don't get 50 wins in a season in any other sport. So,
No.
Yeah, you hang on to this one. Guys, that's all we got. Appreciate you listening. Y'all have a good rest of your week. Unfortunate, but man, great season. Just celebrate these guys. Love on them because they did a great job of giving Tennessee fans something to cheer about this season. That's all we got. Thank you guys. See you.